The kitchen island was covered in sample menus, colour swatches, and a half-empty bottle of Cabernet that Lisa Thornton had opened 2 hours ago. Outside, the October rain pattered against the windows of their suburban Chicago home, matching her mood as she scrolled through yet another email from the event planner. $7,000, Lisa muttered, pushing her reading glasses up into her graying brown hair. For a sweet 16. This is absolute insanity. She looked at the clock. 10:37 p.m. Tom should have been home an hour ago, but his architectural firm was finalizing a major downtown project, which meant late nights for the 3rd week in a row. They needed to make a decision about the venue deposit by tomorrow. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maddie. "Did you book the place yet?" Lisa sighed. Their daughter had been fixated on celebrating her 16th birthday at the Lakeview, an upscale venue overlooking Lake Michigan that had recently hosted the wedding of some social media influencer Maddie followed. The price tag was breathtaking, especially with college tuition looming just 2 years away. She typed back, still discussing with Dad. "We need to talk about the budget, honey." The response came immediately. "OMG, Mom, everyone is expecting this." Caitlin's parents paid for her sweet 16 at the Drake. Lisa put the phone down without responding. The comparison to Caitlin Reynolds' party had become Maddie's favorite argument. The Reynolds family lived in the north part of the neighborhood, in a house twice the size of the Thorntons, with a 3-car garage and summer vacations in Europe. What Maddie didn't understand, or chose to ignore, was that Tom and Lisa weren't in the same financial bracket. The front door opened, bringing in the sound of rain and her husband's tired footsteps. "You're still up," Tom said, loosening his tie as he walked into the kitchen. His salt and pepper hair was damp, and his eyes had the strained look that came with too many late nights reviewing blueprints. At 48, the long hours were taking more of a toll than they used to. "Maddie's been texting about the venue again," Lisa said, pushing the event planner's email toward him as he poured himself a glass of wine. Tom glanced at the screen. $7,000? That's before catering and everything else, right? Right. Plus the DJ she wants, the photographer, the custom decorations. Lisa ran through the numbers they'd calculated last weekend. "We're looking at close to $15,000 for one night." Tom sat heavily on one of the bar stools. $15,000 would make a nice dent in her college fund. "I know, but she's been talking about this for months. Ever since Caitlin's party." "The Reynolds can afford to throw money around," Tom interrupted. "We can't. And frankly, I don't think we should even if we could. What kind of values are we teaching her?" The sound of footsteps on the stairs interrupted them. Maddie appeared in the doorway, her long dark hair pulled into a messy bun, still wearing her field hockey practice clothes from earlier that day. "Are you guys talking about my party?" she asked, her eyes immediately locking onto the open laptop. "We are," Lisa said carefully. "Honey, Dad and I are concerned about the cost. The Lakeview is beautiful, but what?" Maddie crossed her arms. At 15, nearly 16, she had grown into a striking young woman with her father's height and her mother's sharp features. "You promised me a sweet 16. Everyone at school is expecting something amazing." "We promised you a birthday celebration," Tom corrected. "Not a down payment on a house." Maddie's eyes flashed. "You just don't understand how important this is. This isn't just some random party. This is like a milestone. Everyone who matters will be there. And they'll be there wherever we hold it," Lisa said. "What about the community center? We could decorate it beautifully, and it's a quarter of the price." The look of horror on Maddie's face would have been comical if it weren't so genuine. "The community center? Where they hold bingo for old people? Mom, I would literally die of embarrassment." "Nobody has ever literally died of embarrassment," Tom said dryly. "Dad, this isn't funny. Caitlin had her party at the Drake, and Josie's having hers at the Signature Room. If I have mine at some lame community center, it's like announcing to everyone that we're poor or something." Lisa felt her patience wearing thin. "We are not poor, Madison. We're practical. And part of being practical is recognizing the difference between wants and needs." "I've been planning this for months," Maddie's voice rose. I've already sort of told people it would be at the Lakeview. You what? Tom straightened. Maddie, we specifically told you not to commit to anything until we'd made a decision. Because I knew you'd say no. You always say no to anything important to me. Lisa stood up. That's not fair, and you know it. We've supported you in everything from field hockey to that digital art camp last summer that cost a fortune. This is different. This is social suicide. Tears welled in Maddie's eyes. You're ruining everything. You're ruining my party. You're ruining my life. Madison Elizabeth. Tom's voice took on the edge it only got when his patience had reached its limit. You need to lower your voice and speak respectfully. Or what? You'll take away my phone, ground me? Go ahead. Maddie was fully crying now, angry tears streaming down her face. It won't change the fact that you're ruining the most important day of my life because you don't care about what matters to me. That's enough, Lisa said firmly. We are not discussing this any further tonight. Go to your room and we'll talk when everyone's calmer. Fine, don't book it. Have my party in some pathetic, lame place so everyone can feel sorry for me. You're ruining everything. Maddie turned and stormed out, her footsteps thundering up the stairs, followed by the slam of her bedroom door. Lisa sank back onto her stool, the tension in her shoulders knotting into the beginning of a headache. She'll calm down, Tom said, though he didn't sound convinced. Will she? You know how she gets fixated on things. Lisa closed the laptop, suddenly too tired to deal with any of it. Maybe we should just book the Lakeview. We could dip into our emergency fund. Tom shook his head. That's not what that money is for, and you know it. We need to stand firm on this, Lisa. $15,000 for a teenager's birthday party is absurd. Lisa nodded slowly, knowing he was right, but dreading the battles ahead. The look on Maddie's face, the genuine anguish, tugged at her heart. But the practical side of her, the side that had carefully managed their finances for 20 years of marriage, couldn't justify the expense. I'll cancel the hold on the Lakeview tomorrow, she said finally, and then we'll need to sit down with her and come up with alternatives. As she lay in bed later, listening to the rain and Tom's soft snoring beside her, Lisa scrolled through her phone, looking at pictures from Maddie's childhood birthdays. The princess party when she turned 5, with the cake Lisa had stayed up until 2 a.m. decorating. The sleepover at 10, with a backyard tent and stargazing. The 13th birthday trip to New York, just the two of them, to see Hamilton on Broadway. A splurge, but one they'd saved for. When had things changed? When had their thoughtful, appreciative daughter turned into someone who measured her worth by comparison to the wealthiest kids at school? Tomorrow, Lisa decided as she finally put her phone down, she would cancel the Lakeview. And then they would have a serious conversation about values, gratitude, and what really mattered in life. Maddie might not understand now, but someday she would. Lisa just hoped that someday would come sooner rather than later. The next morning, a leaden sky hung over the neighborhood as Lisa sat at her desk in the home office, phone pressed to her ear. Outside, the maple trees lining their street had begun their transformation, hints of gold and crimson peeking through still green leaves. The calendar on her computer reminded her that Maddie's birthday was exactly 6 weeks away. Yes, I understand there's a cancellation fee, Lisa said to the event coordinator at the Lakeview. I'll pay it, of course. She winced at the amount. $500 lost for a venue they'd never use, but the alternative would cost 30 times that. Thank you for understanding. As she hung up, she felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. The decision was made. There was no going back now. Lisa took a deep breath and sent Tom a quick text. Cancelled Lakeview. We'll look into alternatives this afternoon. Love you. His response came quickly. You did the right thing. We'll figure it out together. Love you too. Lisa glanced at the clock. It was nearly noon, and Maddie still hadn't emerged from her bedroom. On a normal Saturday, she would have been up hours ago, either heading to field hockey practice or meeting friends at the mall. But the silence from upstairs told Lisa that today was not a normal Saturday. She made her way to Maddie's door and knocked softly. Maddie, honey, Can we talk? Silence. I made your favorite blueberry pancakes. They're keeping warm in the oven. More silence. Then a muffled, I'm not hungry. Lisa leaned against the doorframe. Maddie, please, we need to discuss this like adults. The door swung open suddenly, revealing Maddie in the same clothes from last night, her eyes puffy and rimmed with red. Like adults? Then maybe you should stop treating me like a child. We're not treating you like a child, Lisa said, keeping her voice even. We're teaching you about financial responsibility. There's a difference. Maddie rolled her eyes and turned back into her room, but she left the door open, a small victory. Lisa followed her in, taking in the familiar chaos of teenage life. Clothes draped over the desk chair, field hockey gear piled in one corner, fairy lights strung above the bed, and photos of Maddie with her friends plastered across one wall. I cancelled the Lakeview this morning, Lisa said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Maddie, who'd been scrolling through her phone, looked up sharply. You what? We discussed this last night. It's simply too expensive. I can't believe you actually did it. Maddie's voice was quiet, almost hollow. I already told everyone, Mom. Everyone. I understand that puts you in an uncomfortable position, Lisa acknowledged, but we can find another venue that's just as nice and more within our budget. Like what? The bowling alley? Chuck E. Cheese? Maddie's voice dripped with sarcasm. Lisa bit back her irritation. I was thinking more like the garden terrace at Westfield. It's beautiful, right near the lake, and about a third of the price of the Lakeview. Josie's cousin had her graduation party there. It's where people go when they can't afford anything better. That's not fair, and it's not true, Lisa countered. It's a lovely venue. But if you don't like that idea, we can look at other options together. Maddie stared at her phone, thumb scrolling rapidly through what looked like Instagram. It doesn't matter anymore. My reputation is already trashed. Don't you think that's a bit dramatic? No, I don't. Maddie thrust her phone toward Lisa. Look. Lisa took the phone and found herself looking at a group chat with Maddie and what appeared to be about 15 of her friends. The most recent messages made her stomach sink. Caitlin. So Lakeview, right? My mom needs to know for the pre-party Josie. OMG pre-party? Iconic Maddie. Actually might be changing venues. Caitlin, WTF, why? Lakeview is perfect. Josie. Don't tell me your parents are being cheap. Lil Tyler. My sister said Lakeview is like the place for sweet 16s this year. Caitlin. Literally anywhere else would be a downgrade. Maddie. I'll let you know soon, Josie. Yikes. Hope everything's okay. Lisa handed the phone back, her heart aching for her daughter, despite her frustration with the situation. Honey, real friends won't judge you based on where you have your party. You don't get it, Mom. This isn't just about the party, it's about... Maddie struggled to find the words. It's about where I fit in. If I have my party at some budget venue, it sends a message about our family, about me. And what message is that exactly? That we're not good enough, Maddie said softly, her anger giving way to vulnerability. That I'm not good enough. Lisa felt a pang of sadness, recognizing the insecurity beneath her daughter's demands. Madison, listen to me. Your worth isn't determined by how much money we spend on your birthday, and anyone who thinks it is doesn't deserve to be in your life. That's easy for you to say. You don't have to go to school with these people every day. Lisa sighed. No, I don't. But I was 16 once too, you know, and I remember how important it felt to fit in. Then why are you doing this to me? Maddie's eyes welled up again. Because sometimes the lessons that matter most aren't the easy ones, Lisa said gently. And because $15,000 for one night isn't just extravagant, it's irresponsible when we're trying to save for your college education. I could get scholarships, Maddie muttered, and we hope you do. But college is expensive, even with scholarships. Your dad and I want to give you the best start we can. Maddie was quiet for a moment, picking at a loose thread on her comforter. Caitlin's parents are paying for her to go to NYU, full tuition. The Reynolds have different financial circumstances than we do. Yeah, because Mr. Reynolds actually gets promotions instead of just working on the same boring buildings year after year. Lisa felt a flash of anger. That's completely unfair to your father. He works incredibly hard for this family. Whatever. Maddie reached for her phone. Can you just go? I need to figure out how to tell everyone my sweet 16 is officially going to suck. We'll keep looking at options, Lisa said, standing up. Something we can all feel good about. The only thing I'd feel good about is the Lakeview, which you just cancelled. Maddie put in her earbuds, a clear dismissal. Lisa hesitated at the door, wanting to say more, but recognizing that pushing further now would only widen the gap between them. Instead, she closed the door softly and leaned against the hallway wall, closing her eyes. She had done the right thing, the responsible thing, but the weight of her daughter's disappointment was heavier than she'd expected. Parenting, she reflected as she headed back downstairs, never got easier. It just presented new challenges, new heartaches, and new opportunities to doubt yourself at every turn. As she entered the kitchen, her phone buzzed with a text from Tom. How'd it go with Maddie? Lisa typed back. About as well as expected. She's upset. We'll get through it. She set her phone down and looked at the stack of party planning materials still spread across the kitchen island. With a determined sigh, she gathered them up and replaced them with her laptop. If the Lakeview was off the table, she needed to find an alternative, and fast. Maybe, just maybe, she could find a compromise that would teach Maddie the lesson they wanted to impart without completely crushing her teenage dreams. The Wednesday afternoon sun slanted through the high windows of Northbrook High School's library, casting long rectangles of light across the study tables. Lisa checked her watch as she waited in the small conference room where parent-teacher meetings were held. Tom had promised to join her, but texted 10 minutes ago that he was still stuck in traffic coming from downtown. Ms. Winters, Maddie's English teacher and faculty advisor, entered with a stack of folders and an apologetic smile. Sorry to keep you waiting, Mrs. Thornton. End-of-quarter grading is upon us. No problem at all, Lisa said, returning the smile. My husband is running late, but he asked us to start without him. Of course. Ms. Winters, a woman in her early 30s with a stylish bob and bright eyes behind tortoiseshell glasses, opened one of the folders. So overall, Maddie is doing quite well academically. Her essay on The Great Gatsby showed real insight into themes of wealth and social status. Lisa nodded, thinking how ironic that particular theme felt, given their current family situation. I did want to check in, though, Ms. Winters continued, her tone shifting slightly. Maddie seems distracted lately, less engaged in class discussions. Is everything okay at home? Lisa hesitated, unsure how much to share. We've had some disagreements about her upcoming birthday celebration. Nothing serious, just normal teenage parent friction. Ms. Winters nodded knowingly. Ah, the sweet 16. That explains the whispered conversations I've been overhearing. High school social dynamics can be so intense. That's putting it mildly, Lisa sighed. Maddie had her heart set on an extravagant venue we simply can't justify financially. She's taking the disappointment hard. The Lakeview? Ms. Winters asked with surprising accuracy. Lisa blinked. Yes, actually. How did you know? It's been the talk of the sophomore class, ever since Caitlin Reynolds' party there last month. Ms. Winters leaned forward slightly. If you don't mind my saying so, Mrs. Thornton, I've been teaching high school for 9 years now, and I've watched this particular pattern play out many times. What pattern is that? Competitive parenting through teenage celebrations. The escalation gets more extreme every year. She shook her head. The Reynolds party had a red carpet entrance with a professional photographer taking paparazzi shots. I heard Mr. Reynolds rented a Bentley to drive Caitlin to the venue. Lisa felt her eyebrows rise. Maddie hadn't mentioned those details. Between you and me, Ms. Winters continued, lowering her voice slightly, I've seen the aftermath of these extravaganzas too. The financial strain on families, the unrealistic expectations it sets for the kids, and the divide it creates between students whose parents can afford such displays and those who can't. The door opened, and Tom slipped in, mouthing, sorry, as he took the seat beside Lisa. Mr. Thornton, we were just discussing Maddie's academic performance, Ms. Winters said smoothly. As I was telling your wife, she's doing very well overall. The meeting continued, with discussions of Maddie's strengths in English and history, her struggles in calculus, and her promising leadership on the field hockey team. As they wrapped up, Ms. Winters hesitated, then added, "About what we were discussing earlier, Mrs. Thornton, sometimes the most valuable lessons aren't taught in classrooms. They're taught at home, by parents willing to stand their ground on what matters." Lisa felt a small wave of validation as they left the meeting. In the hallway, she filled Tom in on the parts he'd missed. "So we're not the only parents saying no to this madness," he said, sounding relieved as they walked toward the parking lot. "Apparently not, though it doesn't make it any easier with Maddie." Their conversation paused as they passed a trophy display case. A photo caught Lisa's attention. The field hockey team after last year's state championship, Maddie in the front row, beaming with her teammates, proudly holding up the trophy. "I remember that day," Tom said, following her gaze. "She played her heart out." "She did," Lisa agreed. "Remember how the whole team went for pizza afterward? No fancy celebration, just sweaty teenagers crowded around tables at Gino's, laughing and reliving every play. She said it was one of the best days of her life," Tom recalled. They continued to the parking lot in thoughtful silence. As they reached their cars, they'd driven separately, with Lisa coming from her part-time job at the community library and Tom from downtown. Lisa suddenly said, "I think I have an idea. For the party. I'm listening. What if we shift the focus? Instead of trying to compete with the Reynolds on extravagance, what if we make Maddie's party unique, in a different way? Something more meaningful than just another fancy venue with the same DJ everyone uses." Tom looked intrigued. "What are you thinking?" "I'm not sure yet, but I think we need to stop trying to find a budget version of the Lakeview and start thinking outside the box entirely." "I like where this is going," Tom said, checking his watch. "I've got to head back to the office, but let's talk more tonight." Lisa nodded, already mentally sketching possibilities. For the first time since this whole birthday drama began, she felt a spark of excitement. By the time Lisa arrived home, the idea had crystallized. She spent an hour on her laptop making calls, sending emails and scribbling notes. When she heard Maddie's key in the front door around 5:30 p.m., she had the beginnings of a plan. "Hey, honey," she called as Maddie dropped her backpack in the entryway. "How was practice?" "Fine." Maddie's one-word responses had become the norm over the past week, ever since the Lakeview cancellation. "I had a meeting with Ms. Winters today," Lisa said, following her daughter into the kitchen. Maddie opened the refrigerator, examining its contents with the intensity of someone avoiding conversation. "Yeah? What did she say about me? That your Gatsby essay was excellent, and that you've seemed distracted lately." Maddie shrugged, pulling out a yogurt. "Whatever. I also had an idea I wanted to run by you, about your birthday." That got Maddie's attention. She looked up, a mixture of wariness and hope in her expression. "What kind of idea? What if, instead of having your party at a venue everyone's already used, we did something completely different, something no one else at Northbrook High has done?" Maddie's spoon paused halfway to her mouth. "Like what?" "Like..." Lisa took a deep breath, hoping her instincts were right. "A Chicago nightlife tour. Not at one location, but a progressive celebration at 3 amazing spots around the city." Maddie's eyes widened slightly. "What do you mean?" "We'd start with dinner at the rooftop at Soho House." "Seriously, that's like impossible to get into." "I know someone who knows someone," Lisa said, not mentioning that the someone was her college roommate's husband, who managed corporate events there. Then a private dessert service at the Chocolate Sanctuary, and finally, exclusive after-hours access to the observatory at the Willis Tower. Maddie set down her yogurt. "The Willis Tower? At night? The view of the city lights is incredible. You and 20 of your closest friends would have the entire observatory to yourselves for 2 hours." This part had been the trickiest to arrange, and would still cost more than Lisa had hoped. But her former client from the library worked in events management for the tower and had offered a significant discount for a Sunday night after regular closing. How would we get between places? Maddie asked, clearly trying not to sound too interested. Party bus, Lisa said, with a special route that showcases the best-lit buildings in the city at night. Perfect for all those Instagram moments everyone wants. Maddie was quiet for a moment, processing. This sounds expensive. It's still less than the Lakeview all-inclusive package, Lisa said honestly. We'd have to be selective about the guest list, 20 people maximum, and we'd need to manage the food budget carefully. But it's doable within the amount Dad and I had originally set aside. 20 people is way less than I was planning to invite. True. But think about it this way. Which 20 people do you really want to share your 16th birthday with? The ones who actually matter to you, or the ones you feel obligated to include? Maddie seemed to be turning this over in her mind. Caitlin had like 50 people at her party. And did she actually get to spend quality time with all 50? I guess not, Maddie admitted. She said later she barely remembered who was even there because it was such a blur. Lisa let that sink in, not pushing further. Anyway, it's just an idea. Think about it, okay? This would be something unique, not copying anyone else's party, but setting a new standard. She deliberately used language that would appeal to Maddie's desire for status, while quietly redirecting it towards something more meaningful. Maddie nodded slowly. I'll think about it. That evening, as Lisa was folding laundry in the bedroom, Maddie appeared in the doorway, phone in hand. I looked up some pictures of the observatory at night, she said, holding out her phone to show Lisa a stunning image of Chicago's skyline, glittering like jewels against the dark sky. It's pretty amazing. It is, Lisa agreed, setting aside a stack of towels. And I've never been to Soho House. Their rooftop restaurant is supposed to be incredible. Maddie hesitated, then asked, could Josie's mom help chaperone? She's always looking for cool places to post about on her lifestyle blog. Lisa smiled inwardly at this transparent attempt to ensure social media coverage of the event. I think that would be fine. We'll need a few parents to help supervise. Maddie sat on the edge of the bed. Would I really get to pick whoever I want for the 20 spots? Absolutely. Your closest friends, the people who matter most. Even if that doesn't include Caitlin? Lisa looked up surprised. Of course, it's your birthday. You should be surrounded by people who make you happy. Maddie nodded, picking at a loose thread on the bedspread, the same nervous habit she'd had since childhood. Caitlin hasn't been very nice lately. Ever since her party, she acts like she's better than everyone else. I'm sorry to hear that, Lisa said carefully, not wanting to influence Maddie's social choices, but secretly relieved to hear her daughter recognizing Caitlin's behavior for what it was. This party idea, Maddie said slowly, it's actually pretty cool, different. No one else has done anything like it. That's the idea, Lisa said, trying to contain her optimism. Unique, just like you. Maddie rolled her eyes at the mum corniness, but couldn't hide a small smile. I need to think about my guest list. Take your time, Lisa said, but I'll need to confirm the reservations by Friday. As Maddie left the room, Lisa let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. It wasn't a full victory yet, but it was progress. She picked up her phone to text Tom. I think we might have a breakthrough. Tell you all about it when you get home. For the first time in weeks, Lisa felt hopeful that they might find a path through this challenge, one that would teach Maddie the values they wanted to instill while still giving her a 16th birthday to remember. The crisp smell of autumn filled the air as Lisa rushed across the parking lot of Northbrook Community Bank on Friday afternoon. Golden leaves swirled around her feet, a reminder that October was slipping away quickly. Inside, she joined the line, mentally calculating the timeline. Maddie's birthday was now just 5 weeks away, and if they were going to secure the progressive party plan, she needed to make the deposits today. When her turn came, Lisa approached the teller with a smile. Hi, I need to withdraw from our savings account, please. She slid her ID and account card across the counter. The teller, a young man with a neat tie and careful manner, examined her identification. And how much will you be withdrawing today, Mrs. Thornton? $4,000, Lisa said. It was a substantial amount, the combined deposits required to hold all 3 venues for Maddie's party. The observatory alone wanted $2,500 for their after-hours rental, even with her connections discount. The teller tapped at his computer, then frowned slightly. "I'll need to speak with my manager for a moment. Would you mind waiting?" Lisa felt a flicker of concern, but nodded. She watched as the teller conferred with an older woman at a desk near the back, both of them glancing at the computer screen with serious expressions. The manager approached, extending her hand. "Mrs. Thornton, I'm Diane Mercer, the branch manager. Could we speak privately for a moment?" Lisa's stomach tightened as she followed Ms. Mercer to a small office. "Is there a problem with my withdrawal?" she asked once they were seated. "Not exactly," Ms. Mercer said carefully, "but I'm showing an unusual withdrawal from this account 3 days ago, a wire transfer for $7,000. Lisa stared at her. "That's impossible. I haven't made any wire transfers." Ms. Mercer turned her computer monitor so Lisa could see the screen. There it was, a $7,000 transfer, authorized through their online banking system on Tuesday afternoon. "I didn't do this," Lisa said, her voice rising slightly, "and my husband wouldn't have without discussing it with me first. The transfer was authorized using your online credentials, Mrs. Thornton." Lisa's mind raced. She'd been at work on Tuesday afternoon. Her laptop had been at home, and her phone had been with her. Unless... A cold realization washed over her. Maddie had been home sick from school on Tuesday, alone in the house all afternoon. "I need to call my husband," Lisa said, her voice tight. 5 minutes later, Tom's confused voice came through the phone. "What wire transfer? I haven't touched the savings account." "Oh, someone did," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice level with Ms. Mercer still sitting across from her. $7,000, Tom, to the Lakeview Event Center." There was a beat of silence then. "Maddie." "That's what I'm thinking," Lisa confirmed. "She was home alone on Tuesday. She must have gotten into my laptop, but she'd need your password." "Which is her birth date and middle name," Lisa said, closing her eyes briefly at her own carelessness. "I've used the same password for years." The conversation with the bank manager continued for another 30 minutes, filling out fraud reports, discussing their options, learning that because the transfer had been authorized with valid credentials, recovering the money might be complicated. "I'll need to speak with the Lakeview directly," Lisa said finally, "and then with my daughter." As she drove home, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles whitened, Lisa cycled through emotions: shock, anger, disappointment, and beneath it all, a deep sadness. How had they reached this point? What had happened to her sweet, honest daughter? When she pulled into the driveway, she saw Maddie through the front window, sitting at the dining room table with her homework spread out around her. So normal, so ordinary, as if she hadn't committed what amounted to theft from her own parents. Lisa took a deep breath before entering the house. She needed to handle this carefully. This wasn't just about a party anymore. It was about trust, honesty, and respect, fundamental values they'd tried to instill in their daughter since she was old enough to understand. Maddie looked up as Lisa entered, her expression shifting instantly from neutral to wary. Something in Lisa's face must have given her away. "What's wrong?" Maddie asked. "I just came from the bank," Lisa said, setting her purse down with deliberate calm. Maddie's eyes flickered, and in that moment, Lisa knew with certainty that her suspicions were correct. "Is there something you want to tell me, Madison?" Maddie looked down at her textbook. "About what?" "About a $7,000 wire transfer to the Lakeview Event Center." The color drained from Maddie's face. "Mom, You accessed my laptop without permission, logged into our bank account, and transferred money that wasn't yours to spend. Money we've been saving for years." Lisa's voice was quiet but firm. "Do you understand how serious this is?" "I was going to tell you," Maddie said, her voice small. "After it was done, I thought once it was booked, you'd see it was the right decision." "The right decision?" Lisa repeated, disbelief coloring her words. "To steal from your parents?" "I didn't steal it," Maddie protested. "It's for my party, the party you promised me. We promised you a birthday celebration within our budget. We did not promise the Lakeview specifically, and we certainly never gave you permission to access our accounts." Lisa pulled out a chair and sat down, suddenly exhausted. "Maddie, this isn't just about money. This is about trust. And right now, I don't know how we can trust you." Maddie's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry. Everyone was asking where my party would be, and Caitlin kept making these comments, and I just couldn't stand it anymore." "So you committed fraud." The harsh word hung in the air between them. "Because of peer pressure. You don't understand what it's like." Maddie's voice rose. "Every day at school, it's all anyone talks about. My birthday is, like, this huge deal now because of the timing. It's the last big party before winter break, and everyone's expecting something amazing. That doesn't justify what you did." Maddie wiped at her tears angrily. "I knew you wouldn't understand. You and Dad never care about what actually matters to me." Madison Elizabeth. Lisa rarely used her full name, and it stopped Maddie's tirade immediately. "What matters to us is raising a daughter with integrity, someone who understands the value of honesty, respect, and financial responsibility. Today, you've shown us that we've failed in that mission." The words landed hard. Maddie's face crumpled. "I just wanted my party to be perfect." "Well, now there might not be a party at all." Maddie's head snapped up. "What? You can't cancel my birthday?" "Of course we're not canceling your birthday. But a party, that's a privilege, not a right. And it's a privilege you've just seriously jeopardized." Lisa stood up. "Your father will be home in an hour. The three of us will discuss this then. Until that time, I want you to go to your room and think about the choices you've made." "But now, Madison." After Maddie trudged upstairs, Lisa called the Lakeview. As she suspected, Maddie had rebooked the venue, using Lisa's email address and phone number as contact information. They had already processed the deposit. "I understand my daughter is a minor and had no authorization to make this booking," Lisa explained to the increasingly uncomfortable event coordinator. "I need to cancel immediately and have the deposit refunded." "Mrs. Thornton, I sympathize with your situation, but our policy on deposits is quite clear." It took 20 minutes of escalating to managers, explaining the situation in humiliating detail. And finally, the gentle threat of involving their lawyer before the Lakeview agreed to refund the deposit, minus a processing fee of $500. It was money they couldn't afford to lose, but Lisa was too drained to fight further. When Tom arrived home, his face was set in grim lines. They conferred quietly in the kitchen before calling Maddie downstairs. She appeared in the doorway, eyes red-rimmed, looking younger and more vulnerable than she had in months. "Sit down," Tom said, gesturing to the chair across from them at the kitchen island. Maddie complied without argument, her usual defiance absent. "Your mother has told me what happened," Tom began, his voice measured. "Before we discuss consequences, I want to hear from you. Why did you think this was an acceptable thing to do?" Maddie stared at her hands. "I didn't think. I knew it was wrong, but I thought once the venue was booked you'd just accept it, that you'd be mad at first but then get over it." "So you were willing to manipulate us," Tom said, "to present us with a fait accompli and force our hand." Maddie didn't respond. "Do you understand that what you did was not just dishonest, but potentially illegal? That if we weren't your parents, you could be facing serious consequences?" She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. Lisa jumped in, her tone softer, but still serious. "We're deeply disappointed, Maddie. Not because you wanted a party at the Lakeview. That's a normal teenage desire, but because you were willing to go behind our backs, violate our trust, and take money that wasn't yours to take." "I'm sorry," Maddie whispered. "Sorry you did it, or sorry you got caught?" Tom asked. Maddie looked up, her face stricken. "Both, I guess, at first. And now I'm just sorry, really sorry." She took a shuddering breath. "I don't know why I did it. It's like there was this pressure building, and I couldn't think straight anymore." Lisa felt a twinge of empathy despite her anger. The social pressure of high school could be overwhelming, especially in their affluent suburb where material displays often defined social standing. The Lakeview has agreed to refund most of the deposit, Lisa said, but we're still out $500. Maddie's eyes widened. I didn't know. Actions have consequences, Tom said firmly. Which brings us to what happens now. They had discussed this part carefully before calling Maddie down. Finding the right balance between meaningful consequences and excessive punishment had been challenging, especially with their emotions still raw. First, Tom continued, you will be paying back that $500. You'll do so by working at the community library with your mother every Saturday until the debt is paid. Maddie nodded, accepting this without protest. Second, you're grounded for the next month. No phone except for emergencies and homework coordination. No social activities outside of school and field hockey. But what about my birthday? Maddie asked, her voice small. Lisa and Tom exchanged glances. This had been the most difficult decision. We've decided, Lisa said carefully, that we will still acknowledge your birthday, but the party, any party, is on hold until you demonstrate that you understand the seriousness of what you've done and show us we can trust you again. For how long? Maddie asked, tears flowing freely now. That depends on you, Tom said. Show us through your actions that you've learned from this mistake, that you understand why trust and integrity matter more than social status or parties. Maddie nodded again, looking utterly defeated. One more thing, Lisa added. The progressive party plan I proposed, that's off the table now too. We can't make those deposits, not after losing money on the Lakeview cancellation. Whatever celebration we eventually have will need to be simpler. I understand, Maddie said, her voice barely audible. As she trudged back upstairs, shoulders slumped, Lisa felt the weight of parental doubt settling over her. Had they been too harsh? Not harsh enough? Was this a normal teenage mistake, or a sign of something more worrying? We did the right thing, Tom said, reading her expression. She needs to understand that actions have consequences. I know, Lisa agreed. I just wish it didn't have to be this way. Later that night, as they were getting ready for bed, Tom paused while setting his alarm. Do you think we should have her talk to someone? A counselor, maybe? Because of the party drama. Because she was willing to steal from us to impress her peers. That level of social pressure response isn't healthy. Lisa considered this. Maybe you're right. Ms. Winters mentioned the school has a good counseling program. I could ask about it. They both turned at a soft knock on their bedroom door. Come in, Lisa called. Maddie stood in the doorway in her pajamas, looking younger than her almost 16 years. Can I talk to you guys for a minute? Of course, Tom said, gesturing her in. Maddie perched on the edge of their bed. I just wanted to say, I know what I did was really wrong. Not just breaking the rules wrong, but like morally wrong. She took a deep breath. And I'm not just saying this to get my party back or anything. I just needed you to know that I get it now. Lisa sat beside her. What do you get, exactly? That I betrayed your trust. And that's way worse than not having some stupid party at some stupid venue, Maddie's voice caught. And I'm going to earn back your trust, however long it takes. I promise. It was a small moment, but Lisa felt something shift between them, a glimpse of the mature young woman emerging from behind the teenage facade. That means a lot to us, Tom said quietly. Maddie nodded, then stood up. Good night. After she left, Lisa and Tom looked at each other, a mix of emotions passing between them. She'll be okay, Tom said finally. We all will. Lisa nodded, hoping he was right. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but tonight, for the first time in weeks, she felt they might be moving in the right direction. 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Without her phone or social activities, Maddie spent evenings at home, studying at the dining room table or reading in the living room instead of locked away in her bedroom. The absence of constant notifications seemed to have settled something in her. There was a focus to her movements that had been missing before, a steadiness that reminded Lisa of Maddie's younger self. On this particular Saturday morning, A bright, early November day with frost edging the windows, Maddie was sorting books on a cart at the community library, part of her ongoing repayment plan. Lisa watched her from the circulation desk, noting how carefully she checked each spine before placing it in the correct section. "Your daughter's a natural," whispered Eleanor, the head librarian and Lisa's longtime friend. "We should hire her permanently." Lisa smiled. "She's certainly learning the value of hard work." Eleanor nodded toward the windows, where golden sunlight streamed through the branches of nearly bare trees. "Beautiful day. Shame to spend it all indoors." The comment sparked an idea. Lisa glanced at her watch. They'd been here since 8, and it was now nearly noon. Maddie had already put in her required 4 hours. When Maddie finished shelving the last cart, Lisa motioned her over. "How would you feel about getting lunch? Maybe at that cafe in the park?" Surprise flickered across Maddie's face. They hadn't done anything remotely social together since the banking incident. "Really? But I thought I was grounded." "You are," Lisa confirmed, "but your punishment isn't meant to cut you off from family. Besides, you've been working hard, both here and at school. Ms. Winters emailed me about your improved participation in class." Maddie ducked her head, but not before Lisa caught the small, pleased smile. "Lunch sounds nice." 20 minutes later, they sat at an outdoor table at Northbrook Park's Lakeside Cafe, surprisingly comfortable in the crisp air, with the sun warming their backs. Maddie wrapped her hands around a steaming mug of hot chocolate, looking out at the calm water, reflecting the blue sky and flame-colored trees. "This is prettier than I remembered," she said, almost to herself. Lisa followed her gaze. The small lake was rimmed with a walking path where couples strolled hand in hand and children chased fallen leaves. A group of ducks paddled near the shore, hoping for handouts from park visitors. "We used to come here all the time when you were little," Lisa said. "You loved feeding the ducks, even though the signs asked people not to." Maddie smiled. "I remember. You'd bring those little bags of unsalted sunflower seeds because you read somewhere that bread was bad for them. You remember that?" Lisa was surprised. "Yeah, you were always thinking about stuff like that. What was healthiest? What was best for everyone?" Maddie paused. "I guess I haven't been very good at that lately. Thinking about what's best for everyone, I mean." It was the opening Lisa had been waiting for, but she approached it carefully. Being a teenager isn't easy. There are so many pressures, so many competing priorities. Maddie traced the rim of her mug with one finger. "It's not just that. I got caught up in this whole image thing. Like, if my party wasn't as good as Caitlin's, then I wasn't as good as Caitlin." Lisa nodded, letting her continue. "But since I've been grounded, I've had a lot of time to think. And I realized something weird." Maddie looked up, meeting Lisa's eyes directly. "I don't even like Caitlin that much, or most of the people I was stressing about impressing." No, they're exhausting actually, always competing, always judging. The party was never really about having fun with them, it was about, she struggled to find the words. "Validation?" Lisa suggested gently. "Yeah, like proving I belonged in their circle." Maddie shook her head. "It sounds so stupid when I say it out loud." "Not stupid, human." Lisa reached across the table and squeezed her daughter's hand. "We all want to belong somewhere." Their server arrived with their sandwiches, interrupting the moment. As they ate, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Maddie's field hockey team's prospects for the state championship, the novel she was reading for English class, Tom's latest building project downtown. It wasn't until they were finishing their meal that Lisa broached the subject that had been on her mind. "Your birthday is in less than 2 weeks." Maddie nodded, her expression carefully neutral. "I know. Your father and I have been talking." Lisa chose her words deliberately. "We've seen real changes in you these past few weeks. You've taken your punishment without complaint. You've worked diligently to repay the money, and your teachers have nothing but good things to say about your focus and attitude." A flicker of hope crossed Maddie's face, but she remained quiet. We think you've earned back enough of our trust that we'd like to discuss having a small celebration for your birthday. Maddie sat up straighter. Really? Something modest, Lisa clarified. Nothing like the Lakeview or even the progressive party plan, but yes, something to mark this important milestone in your life. Cool. What did you have in mind? Maddie asked, and Lisa was struck by how different her tone was from just a month ago. Genuinely curious rather than demanding. Actually, we thought you might have some ideas, keeping in mind our budget constraints and the fact that you're still technically grounded until the day after your birthday. Maddie was quiet for a moment, her brow furrowed in thought. Then hesitantly, she said, What if we had it here? Here? At the cafe? No, I mean the park. We could reserve that covered picnic area near the east shore. Maddie gestured toward a rustic wooden pavilion visible across the lake. It's really pretty, and we could string up lights and stuff. Lisa considered this. It would be mid-November, potentially quite cold. We could rent those standing heaters, like restaurants use for outdoor seating, and tell everyone to dress warm. Maddie was warming to her idea. We could do a bonfire theme. S'mores, hot chocolate, those fire pit things people have on their patios. The enthusiasm in her voice was contagious. That actually sounds lovely, and quite different from the typical Sweet 16. Exactly. Maddie's eyes lit up in a way Lisa hadn't seen in months. It wouldn't be trying to copy anyone else. It would be its own thing, and it would be way less expensive than any of the other plans. Lisa couldn't help but smile at this new consideration for their budget. Who would you want to invite? Maddie didn't hesitate. Just my real friends, not the whole sophomore class or whatever. People I actually like spending time with. And how many would that be? Maybe 12, 15 at most. Lisa nodded, mentally calculating. The park pavilion rental was nominal, under $100 for residents. Heaters could be rented from the same party supply company they'd used for neighborhood block parties. Food costs would be reasonable for a smaller group. I think this could work, she said, but let me talk it over with your dad first, and we'd need to check if the pavilion is available on such short notice. Of course, Maddie agreed quickly, and Mom, thank you for even considering letting me have any kind of party after what I did. The genuine gratitude in her voice touched Lisa deeply. Everyone makes mistakes, Maddie. What matters is how you learn and grow from them. As they walked back to the car, Maddie suddenly asked, Do you think Dad will agree to the park idea? I think he'll appreciate the thoughtfulness behind it and the budget consciousness. Lisa smiled. You've come a long way in a short time, Maddie. We've noticed. Maddie shrugged, but her expression was pleased. I've had a lot of time to think without my phone constantly distracting me. It's been different, but not entirely awful. High praise from a teenager. Lisa laughed. That evening, after Maddie had gone upstairs to work on a history project, Lisa and Tom sat in the living room discussing the park proposal. I like it, Tom said, surprising Lisa with his immediate approval. It's creative, thoughtful, and within our means. More importantly, it shows she's thinking differently about what matters. My thoughts exactly, Lisa agreed. But can we pull it together in less than 2 weeks? Tom leaned back, considering. The pavilion shouldn't be a problem this time of year. Food is manageable. Decorations, heaters, basic supplies, all doable. The real question is whether her friends will come to an outdoor party in November. She seems confident they will. Lisa hesitated. I think they're different friends than the ones she was trying to impress before. More genuine connections. All the more reason to support this. Tom nodded decisively. Let's do it. I'll call the Park District first thing Monday morning to reserve the pavilion. Do. There's one more thing, Lisa added. I think we should involve her in the planning process, not just to ease our workload, but to give her ownership of the celebration. Let her see what goes into creating an event within a budget. A practical lesson in financial management, Tom agreed. I like it. The next day, they presented the plan to Maddie. Yes to the Park Pavilion party, provided she took an active role in planning and stayed within the budget they set, $1,200, all inclusive. I need to make a budget spreadsheet, Maddie said immediately, reaching for a notebook. Pavilion rental, heaters, food, decorations, maybe a small cake. Lisa and Tom exchanged surprised glances at her enthusiasm for the budgeting process. I could make the invitations myself, Maddie continued, scribbling notes. Digital ones, so there's no printing cost. And maybe we could borrow some of those outdoor string lights from the Millers next door. They have tons from their backyard renovation. Over the next week, a transformation took place. The Maddie, who had once demanded the Lakeview without concern for cost, was now comparison shopping for the best price on marshmallow roasting sticks and debating whether to make hot chocolate from scratch or use a mix with premium toppings. The most striking change came when Lisa overheard Maddie on the landline, her cell phone still confiscated, talking to her friend Josie. It's going to be totally different, Maddie was saying. No fancy venue, no formal dinner, just a cool bonfire vibe at the park. Super casual and fun. Yeah, dress warm, it's all outdoors. No, I decided I didn't want that whole scene anymore. This feels more like me, you know? Lisa quietly backed away from the door, not wanting to eavesdrop further, but feeling a warm glow of pride at her daughter's words. That Friday, when Maddie came home from school, she was quieter than usual. After dinner, she asked if they could talk. Is everything okay with the party plans? Lisa asked, concerned. The plans are fine, Maddie said, fidgeting with her napkin. It's just, I ran into Caitlin today. She heard about my park party from Josie. And she said it sounded quaint and budget. Maddie made air quotes around the words, like it was pathetic or something. Lisa felt a flash of anger at this girl, who seemed determined to make her daughter feel inferior. How did that make you feel? Maddie considered this. Honestly, at first I was upset. But then I realized something. I don't care what Caitlin thinks anymore. A small, confident smile spread across her face. My party is going to be exactly what I want it to be, with people I actually care about. And that's worth way more than some overpriced venue with a bunch of fake friends. Tom, who had been listening quietly, reached across the table and squeezed Maddie's hand. That's my girl. As Lisa began clearing the dishes, she reflected on the journey of the past month, from the Lakeview drama to this moment of clarity. The path had been rocky, with heartache and broken trust along the way, but somehow they'd emerged in a better place. Maddie was growing up, learning difficult but necessary lessons about values, authenticity, and what truly mattered in life. The birthday celebration they were planning might not be the extravagant Sweet 16 Maddie had once envisioned, but Lisa suspected it would be something far more valuable, a genuine expression of who Maddie was becoming, surrounded by people who appreciated her for herself, not for the venue she could afford. And that, Lisa thought, was worth far more than any party at the Lakeview could ever be. The afternoon of Maddie's birthday dawned clear and surprisingly mild for mid-November, a gift from the weather gods, as Tom had joked that morning over birthday pancakes. The temperature hovered around 50 degrees, warm enough that the rented patio heaters might not even be necessary until after sunset. Lisa stood in the park pavilion, surveying their work with satisfaction. Rustic wooden tables had been arranged in a U-shape beneath the shelter's peaked roof. Twinkling string lights crisscrossed overhead, ready to illuminate the space once darkness fell. Mason jars filled with battery-operated candles and autumn leaves served as centerpieces. On a long table at the back, a homemade hot chocolate station waited for guests, complete with whipped cream, cinnamon sticks, and marshmallows. "What do you think?" Tom asked, coming up beside her after parking their portable fire pits in a semicircle on the paved area just outside the pavilion. "Cozy enough?" "It's perfect," Lisa said honestly. Maddie was right. This is so much more special than some generic venue. As if summoned by her name, Maddie appeared from the path leading to the parking lot, carrying a stack of plaid blankets they'd collected from neighbors and family members. She wore jeans, boots, and a soft cream sweater, her dark hair pulled back with a few strands framing her face. The afternoon sunlight caught the simple gold necklace, their birthday gift to her, glinting at her throat. "These are the last things from the car," she called, her cheeks flushed from the crisp air and excitement. "Guests should be arriving in about 20 minutes. Lisa took half the blankets, arranging them on a wooden rack near the entrance. "Everything looks beautiful, honey. How are you feeling?" "Nervous," Maddie admitted. "But good nervous, you know. I actually feel like I can be myself tonight." Tom clapped his hands together. "Let's light these fire pits before everyone arrives. Can't have a bonfire party without the fire." As they worked together, lighting the fires that would provide both warmth and the perfect setting for later s'mores, Lisa reflected on the journey to this moment. The past month had been challenging, but watching Maddie methodically plan this celebration, researching costs, making thoughtful decisions, considering her guests' experience rather than just impressing them, had shown a maturity that made both parents proud. The first guests arrived right on time, Josie and her mother, carrying a carefully wrapped gift and a tray of homemade cookies. "This is so cool," Josie exclaimed, taking in the fairy lights and crackling fire pits. "Way more original than another hotel ballroom party." More friends trickled in, 12 in total, just as Maddie had planned. They were a different group than Lisa had expected months ago when this birthday drama began. Missing were Caitlin and her followers. Present instead were Maddie's field hockey teammates, her lab partner from AP Chemistry, 2 boys from the school newspaper where she'd recently started working, and several quiet, thoughtful girls Lisa recognized from Maddie's middle school days, but hadn't seen much during the past year. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks over the lake, the party found its rhythm. The teenagers gathered around the fire pits, roasting marshmallows and talking animatedly. Laughter echoed across the water as they shared stories and inside jokes. Maddie moved among her friends with an easy confidence Lisa hadn't seen in months, perhaps years. "She seems different," observed Ellen, Josie's mother, as she helped Lisa refill the hot chocolate station. "More at ease with herself." "It's been a transformative few months," Lisa admitted, keeping her voice low. "Some hard lessons, but important ones." Ellen nodded knowingly. "Josie mentioned there was some drama about venue changes. She said Maddie's become much more authentic, I think was the word she used. Less concerned with status." "That's a good description," Lisa agreed, watching as Maddie demonstrated her perfected marshmallow roasting technique to a laughing group. Sometimes the hardest parenting moments lead to the most growth. As darkness settled completely, the string lights created a magical canopy above them. Tom had connected a small speaker to his phone, playing a playlist Maddie had carefully curated. No professional DJ required. The teenagers had naturally divided into small groups, some still by the fires, others at the tables playing card games. A few walking along the lakeshore path, illuminated by the nearly full moon. "Time for cake," Tom announced, bringing out the 2-tier chocolate creation they'd ordered from a local bakery. Elegant, but not extravagant, with Sweet 16 written in Maddie's favorite blue icing. They gathered around as Maddie stood before the cake, 16 candles flickering in the gentle evening breeze. Lisa watched her daughter's face, illuminated by the warm glow, and felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't the celebration they'd imagined months ago, but somehow it had become something far more meaningful. "Make a wish," someone called, and Maddie closed her eyes for a moment before leaning forward to blow out the candles. After cake, Maddie opened her gifts, thoughtful presents from friends who clearly knew her well. A leather-bound journal from her newspaper friends, specialty art supplies from her former middle school group, a framed photo collage of field hockey memories from her teammates. Later, as the evening wound down and parents began arriving to pick up their teenagers, Lisa found Maddie standing alone by the lake's edge, staring out at the moonlight reflecting on the water. "Everything okay?" she asked, joining her daughter. Maddie nodded, smiling. "Better than okay. This was perfect, actually. Really, no regrets about the lake view?" Maddie laughed softly. "God, no. This felt like me, like who I actually am, not who I was trying to be." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Maddie spoke again. I've been thinking a lot about why I got so caught up in all that stupid status stuff with Caitlin and that whole crowd. And I think I was scared, Maddie said thoughtfully. High school can be intimidating, and I thought if I could just be part of the right group, have the right party, wear the right things, then I'd be safe somehow. Protected, Lisa nodded, understanding completely. That's a very human instinct, but it doesn't work, Maddie continued, because no matter how hard you try to fit into someone else's idea of what's cool or important, it never feels right. You're always scared of slipping up, of not being enough. Lisa put an arm around her daughter's shoulders. That's a pretty profound realization for 16. Ooh, well, I had a lot of time to think during my grounding, Maddie said with a wry smile. And honestly, being forced to step back from all of it, the social media, the constant drama, it was kind of a relief, like I could breathe again. In the distance, Tom was thanking the last departing parent, the sounds of car doors closing and engines starting marking the end of the celebration. We should help Dad clean up, Maddie said, turning back toward the pavilion. We should, Lisa agreed. But first, I want you to know how proud I am of you. Not just for planning this beautiful party, but for the way you've handled everything these past few weeks. You've shown real character, Maddie. Maddie ducked her head, but not before Lisa caught her pleased smile. Thanks, Mom. As they walked back to the pavilion, Lisa reflected on the journey they'd taken to reach this point. The cancelled venue, the arguments, the betrayal of trust, the painful consequences, all of it had led here, to this moment of genuine connection and growth. Parenting, she thought, was rarely a straight path. It twisted and turned, sometimes doubling back on itself, often leading through difficult terrain. But the destination, raising a child who understood values deeper than material possessions or social status, that was worth every challenging step. Under the canopy of twinkling lights, Tom was already starting to pack up, carefully extinguishing the fire pits. Best Sweet 16 ever, he declared as they approached, though I might be biased. No, it really was, Maddie agreed, reaching out to help fold a blanket. Thank you both, not just for tonight, but for, everything. They worked together in companionable silence, dismantling the celebration piece by piece. As they carried the last boxes to the car, Maddie paused to look back at the now empty pavilion, still glowing softly with string lights. You know what I wished for? She asked suddenly. When I blew out my candles? You're not supposed to tell, or it won't come true, Tom reminded her. Maddie shook her head. I think this one already has. I wished for the wisdom to know what really matters. She looked at her parents, a new maturity in her eyes. And I think I'm starting to figure that out. As they drove home under the starlit November sky, Lisa reached back and squeezed her daughter's hand. The road ahead would still have its challenges. Maddie was, after all, only 16, with all the complexities that age entailed. But tonight had shown that they were moving in the right direction, together, and that was worth celebrating, far more than any party at the Lakeview could ever be.